In the sprawling concrete jungle of Houston, Texas, where oil rigs pierce the sky and southern heat breeds both dreams and desperation, February 15th, 1995, marked the birth of a revolution. Not the kind announced with fanfare or headlines, but the quiet kind, the kind that starts in a hospital room with a newborn's cry. Her name, Megan Jovan Ruth Pete. But destiny had already whispered a different name into the universe. A name that would echo through clubs, charts, and controversies. A name that would become synonymous with power, pain, and paradox. The world would come to know her as Megan Thee Stallion. To understand the woman who would command stages and headlines, we must first understand the ground from which she grew. And that ground was Holly Thomas, known in Houston's underground scene as Hollywood. Picture this, a young mother, barely out of her teens, balancing textbooks and notebooks filled with rhymes. Holly wasn't just Megan's mother. She was her first teacher in the school of life and lyrics. While other kids fell asleep to lullabies, Megan drifted off to the rhythm of her mother's rap sessions, the cadence of carefully crafted bars becoming her heartbeat's natural tempo. Holly worked multiple jobs, anything to keep food on the table and dreams alive. But when the sun set and the responsibilities of the day faded, she transformed. In the dim light of their modest Houston home, Holly would write, rap, and record, unknowingly planting seeds in her daughter's consciousness that would bloom into something extraordinary. Megan watched, Megan learned, and more importantly, Megan absorbed the unspoken lesson that would define her entire existence. That words have power, that rhythm has purpose, and that a woman's voice, when wielded correctly, could move mountains. The little girl who would spend hours scribbling her own rhymes, mimicking her mother's flow, had no idea she was preparing for war. But childhood in Houston's Third Ward wasn't just about music and dreams. It was about survival, about watching your mother work 3 jobs and still find energy to chase her passion. About understanding, even at a young age, that nothing worth having comes easy. Holly's influence wasn't just musical, it was psychological. She taught Megan that being a woman in a man's world meant being twice as good, twice as prepared, and infinitely more resilient. These weren't just lessons, they were prophecies. But life, as it often does, had other plans. The foundation upon which Megan's world was built began to crack when Holly was diagnosed with a brain tumor in 2019. The woman who had been invincible, who had juggled motherhood and music with the grace of a seasoned performer, was suddenly vulnerable. Megan was 24, on the cusp of her breakthrough, when the unthinkable happened. Holly, her mentor, her best friend, her North Star, passed away. Imagine losing the person who taught you to dream, just as those dreams were becoming reality. Imagine having success taste bitter because the one person whose approval mattered most would never hear your biggest hits. The grief hit Megan like a freight train. But here's where the story takes an interesting turn. Instead of breaking her, the loss transformed her. The pain became fuel. The emptiness became space for ambition. The silence where her mother's voice used to be became the void she was determined to fill. Holly had always told her daughter that she rapped like a stallion. Powerful, uncontainable, magnificent. After her mother's death, Megan didn't just embrace this identity, she weaponized it. The girl who had lost her anchor decided to become the storm. While most college students at Texas Southern University were cramming for exams, Megan Thee Stallion was cramming herself into dormitory freestyle ciphers, turning study sessions into showcases. She was studying health administration by day and studying the culture by night. But this wasn't just casual college experimentation. This was systematic domination. Megan understood something that many of her contemporaries missed. The internet had democratized fame. You didn't need a record deal to have an audience. You just needed authenticity and consistency. Her freestyle videos began surfacing on social media platforms, each one more confident than the last. The camera would catch her mid-flow, words spilling out with surgical precision and surgical brutality. She wasn't just rapping. She was making statements about sexuality, about power, about refusing to be anything less than extraordinary. The breakthrough moment came with Like a Stallion in 2016. It wasn't just a song, it was a manifesto. The internet took notice. The culture took notice. But notice and success are different currencies entirely. Then came 2018's Big Ol' Freak. If Like a Stallion was her introduction, Big Ol' Freak was her explosion. The track didn't just go viral. It rewrote the rules of what viral could mean for a female rapper from Houston. Radio stations that had ignored her were suddenly scrambling to add her to playlists. Record labels that had passed on her were suddenly returning calls. The same industry that had once viewed her as too raw, too explicit, too much, was now desperate to harness whatever she had bottled. But Megan had learned from watching her mother navigate the music industry's promises and betrayals. She would play the game, but on her terms. 2019 was the year the world met Megan Thee Stallion, and the world wasn't ready. Hot Girl Summer wasn't just a song, it was a cultural phenomenon. 3 words that captured an entire generation's attitude towards self-empowerment, sexuality, and unapologetic confidence. The track, featuring Nicki Minaj and Ty Dolla $ign, dominated not just charts but conversations. But if Hot Girl Summer introduced her to the mainstream, Savage made her a household name. The 2020 Beyoncé remix didn't just elevate the song, it elevated Megan to a different stratosphere entirely. When Beyoncé, the undisputed queen of contemporary music, chooses to collaborate with you, it's not just an endorsement, it's a coronation. The numbers were staggering. Savage hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. The dance became a TikTok phenomenon. The song became the soundtrack to a generation in lockdown, desperate for something that made them feel powerful and alive. Awards followed. Grammy nominations, Grammy wins, brand deals with Fashion Nova, Revlon, Nike, magazine covers, talk show appearances. Megan Thee Stallion wasn't just successful, she was inevitable. But inevitability, as history teaches us, often comes with a price. July 12th, 2020, a date that would split Megan's story into before and after. What happened that night in the Hollywood Hills would test everything she had built, everything she represented, and everything she believed about justice, truth, and survival. The details, as they emerged, painted a picture of betrayal that went beyond personal. It was cultural, it was gendered, and it was devastating. Megan alleged that Tory Lanez, someone she had considered a friend, shot her in the feet following an argument. But this wasn't just about a physical wound. It was about the wound inflicted on her credibility, her reputation, and her sense of safety. What followed was perhaps more traumatic than the incident itself: the disbelief, the accusations that she was lying, the conspiracy theories, the memes, the casual dismissal of her pain by people who had never lived in her skin or walked in her shoes, bloody though they were. The internet, which had lifted her to stardom, became the arena for her crucifixion. Comment sections filled with doubt, Twitter threads questioning her motives, Instagram posts dissecting her every move, every statement, every tear. Megan found herself in a position that countless women before her had occupied. Having to prove her own trauma was real. The legal battle stretched over 2 years. 2 years of depositions, testimonies, and having the most traumatic moments of her life scrutinized by strangers. 2 years of watching people she thought were fans turn into prosecutors. 2 years of defending not just her version of events, but her right to be believed. When a verdict finally came, guilty on all charges for Tory Lanez, it felt less like vindication and more like survival. Because the damage had already been done. The narrative had already been written. The internet had already passed its judgment. But the Tory Lanez situation was just the most visible battle in a war Megan had been fighting since stepping into the spotlight. The music industry, for all its glamour and opportunity, is also a machine that consumes its most vulnerable parts. Behind the Grammy speeches and red carpet appearances was a young woman grappling with grief, trauma, and the impossible expectations placed on public figures. Every interview became a potential minefield. Every social media post was analyzed for hidden meanings. Every outfit choice, every collaboration, every silence was interpreted as a statement. The pressure to be the hot girl coach, while dealing with very un-hot girl problems, created a cognitive dissonance that would have broken lesser spirits. How do you preach self-confidence when the world questions your every truth? How do you celebrate your body when people use it to diminish your credibility? How do you trust new relationships when the last one left you literally bleeding? Reports surfaced of conflicts with her label, 1501 Certified Entertainment. Legal battles over contracts, creative control, and the very ownership of her work added another layer of complexity to an already complicated narrative. Megan was learning that success in the music industry often means trading one form of vulnerability for another. The freedom from financial insecurity can become the prison of public scrutiny. The power to choose your collaborations can become the burden of every choice being questioned. Yet, in the midst of chaos, something extraordinary happened. Megan Thee Stallion, the brand, continued to thrive. More importantly, Megan P., the person, began to heal. The duality became her strength. She could be vulnerable in interviews about her trauma while being invincible on stage. She could advocate for other women's safety while rebuilding her own sense of security. She could mourn her mother's absence while channeling her mother's wisdom. Her 2021 album, Traumazine, wasn't just music, it was therapy set to beats. Each track peeled back another layer of the armor she had built, revealing not just the wounds but the healing. The Grammy wins for Savage felt different in this context. They weren't just recognition of musical excellence. They were validation of survival. Standing on that stage, holding those trophies, Megan represented something larger than herself. She represented every woman who had been doubted, dismissed, or disbelieved. Brand partnerships with major companies weren't just business deals. They were statements of faith in her resilience and marketability despite the controversies. Stories like Megan's, complex, layered, and still unfolding, are exactly why this channel exists. The intersection of artistry, trauma, triumph, and controversy creates narratives that deserve more than surface-level coverage. If you've been following this journey and you want more deep dives into hip-hop's most polarizing and fascinating figures, now would be the perfect time to subscribe. These stories matter. These voices matter. And your engagement helps ensure we can keep telling them with the nuance they deserve. Is Megan destined to be remembered as one of hip-hop's greatest voices? A woman who broke barriers, dominated charts, and survived industry warfare with her authenticity intact? Or will her story become a cautionary tale about the dangers of seeking truth in a world that profits from doubt? Perhaps the question isn't what Megan Thee Stallion will be remembered for, but what she's still becoming. Each new release, each public appearance, each decision to speak or remain silent adds another brushstroke to a portrait that refuses to be finished. Holly Thomas raised her daughter to be a stallion. Powerful, untamable, magnificent. What Holly couldn't have known was that she was also raising a phoenix, a creature capable of burning and being reborn stronger each time. The little girl who fell asleep to her mother's rhymes has become the woman whose rhymes put others to sleep. Not from boredom, but from exhaustion trying to keep up. But in the quiet moments between the applause and the controversy, one question remains. What dreams does a dreamer dream when all her dreams have come true and almost destroyed her? The next chapter of Megan Thee Stallion's story hasn't been written yet. And perhaps that's exactly how she prefers it.